Well, first of all, thank you for the introduction, and as well as thank you for the amazing lecture. That was, I think everybody enjoyed that one. And a main thing that she did talk about was connections. So I think this panel is a great opportunity to make those connections. And we also have a meet and greet after, and these three individuals are ones to know. So I get the honor to introduce our wonderful panelists. So to my direct right is the president of Oberoi Holdings, Mr. Ricki Oberoi. He entered the food service industry at a young age from starting as a second-gen restaurateur and worked his way up to his current company, which is a Wendy's. You have a Wendy's franchisee for over 40 units in Texas and Florida. I have to ask, is there anywhere else that you're thinking of extending to?
No. We'll expand the brand.
Yes. Well, thank you for being here. Next should be a familiar face to all of us. As a professor here and his extensive research on technology, innovation, and management, leading him to now over 200 published works and several prestigious awards, Dr. Cristian Moroson. Does your passion for teaching ever stop?
No, and they will never stop. I hope it's contagious too.
Well, thank you for being here as well. And our third panelist, I think, traveled the farthest to be here. She is one to know in the hotel and resort world for over 30 years of experience in various leadership roles, encouraging community outreach and food rescue events. She is now the Vice President of Communications at the Venetian Resorts Las Vegas, Miss Anna Schmid. So now all of us are in front of you to talk about innovation, to talk about what it is in the hospitality industry and what the future holds for us, because that's what we want to know. We want to know what's the next step, what's out there currently, what maybe things that haven't worked. So as a general question to all of you to start us off, we'll go through what does game-changing mean to you if you can summarize it in 2 words. Ricki, I'll start with you on this.
This is a true test.
2 words.
2 words.
I'm going to say artificial intelligence.
To me, 2 words, unlike before. And I have another one, just amazing. And yeah, that's it.
Mine's 3, but executing the unexpected.
I like all of those. Those are great words to start us off on this topic. And obviously we will have a questions portion after this, so but Dr. Moroson, I wanted to start with you. So if you could tell us in less than a minute, what does company innovation mean as an introduction?
So in just a minute, it's going to be difficult, but I'll give it a try. Company innovation means doing new things, and they don't have to be absolutely revolutionary. They don't have to be the greatest things. It has to be something that people improve from a point of pain, from an opportunity, and from something that they do day to day to just improve it, to do it better. I teach this class in innovation. We discuss a lot innovative ways for our students to get inspired by the problems that they see, by the frustrations that they see, also by the opportunities that they see out there in the workplace and even in academia. And our goal is to open students' eyes to understand that innovation is something that we all should do and we all have to do in order to improve our lives, our workplaces, and so on. So I think I got the 1 minute.
No, that's a good introduction to how innovation is in our lives currently. And as you say, you teach a class on this, you see what's going on right now, you do research on this. So would you say any companies that stick out to you that are trending right now, that are sticking out to you right now?
Right, absolutely. So we can look at the variety of ways in which companies innovate, and you can see revolutionary innovations, companies that really have disrupted absolutely everything, their entire value chains, the value chains of the industry. Of course, if you look up on like ChatGPT or Google, you'll find Airbnb is a disruptor, Uber is a disruptor, but we don't necessarily have to see innovation as being this revolutionary innovation, things that have never been done before. Everybody is an innovator, right? And we're looking at, for example, Hilton, how they innovate. They innovate through this new platform that they're developing. It's called PEP, right? It's basically a new way of thinking about property management and the way you interact with the customers by putting everything that is data related in front of the agent at the front desk. So when a guest interacts with the front desk agent, they have all the data in front of them, so that the interaction is special, creates this great start of a journey with the hotel. So I would say, yes, we can look at the major disruptors, but we can also look at process innovations, even organizational innovations, new roles that people have, new initiatives, new programs, so new organizational structures that are nimbler, that are more agile, that take advantage of things that happen in the environment faster and with much more accuracy than before.
Great. Yeah, so I'm going to start with Anna on this about, like, what is your latest and biggest going on in the Venetian? What do you see is trending and things like that?
It's a great question. We have just celebrated our 25th year on the Las Vegas Strip. So we are in the middle of really kind of reinventing ourselves or reimagining what is the Venetian for the future, and taking the tried and true theme or Italian spirit of the property and really looking at it in the next 25 years. So that, and we've also gone through a major change because for many years, almost all of those 25, we were owned by a majority share of one family. And now we are private equity. So that has been a big switch and has brought tons of change to the property and tons of change to our team members. So it's been, a disruptor in general, but we're now watching the positive aspects come out of what this relationship looks like. So we are in the middle of a $1.5 billion reinvestment into the property, which is the big thing for us right now. It's going to take about 4 years, and we're about 2 years into it. We're halfway there, but it touches every corner of the property. So whether it's new restaurants, new entertainment, new technology, an entirely redesigned convention space, and redesigning every single one of our 7,100 suites, it is, every single day feels like, one, a disruption, but two, also, like, look what this is going to be in the future, and look what our future guests are stepping into, and while trying to make sure that we are keeping our core audience, also planning for the next audience.
I love that, and I love that you're expanding, you're keeping it fresh, keeping it new. But that makes me question, so how do you keep the human aspect, the traditional aspect when you're making everything so new?
It is not easy. It is every day looking at every single touch point for our guests. So we look at everything from the customer journey, and this has really been something that came into play as we were making all of these changes. We realized that whether it's the first time that you click onto the website, or it's after you've left and you're getting the survey, what do those touch points look like, and how are we connecting the dots, Agnes, of our journey to make sure that it's seamless for our guest, because it's not easy to change all of that so much and also just keep the spirit of the place intact and also keep a high team member morale. So what we create really is a pretty robust program where we're continually looking at the customer journey. So we're meeting continually. Anytime there's a new program or a new process or new offering, it goes on to basically a grid. We're going over it with all of the key stakeholders in the room. So no matter if you are IT, security, cybersecurity, guest services, marketing, every department, how is it touching your area and how is it impacting your guest? So we're really looking at it from the 360 point of view of from the beginning to the end, and making sure that as we innovate, our guests are still getting the great experience that they've always expected.
Great, and I want to ask also Ricki, within your business, do you agree with Anna on her?
Yes, I do. So where we look a little bit differently now, and you talk about contact, we're trying to actually reduce that contact and get into more technology of ordering through electronics now. Our drive-through systems are now converting over to AI to a point where it'll actually recognize certain customers depending how much they do it. Obviously we have order kiosks now, it just makes it efficient. We've noticed the check averages return us a lot more. So that part of it, technology, because labor is more of a challenge for us than probably because our prices have to keep low, and we get demonized continuously by the press about our rising prices. See that. So in order to do that, we're kind of looking at a lot more automation in our restaurants.
With so much automation going on and so much AI, and I know as a Gen Z, I know that maybe older generations don't catch on as quickly as we may. But how do you keep that human touch, not to alienate any of maybe not so tech savvy people?
We do try our best. So we have a market down in South Texas, and they don't like apps, and they don't like app coupons. So we still have to do paper coupon drops down there. If I drop them in Houston, they do okay. But if you drop them in the valley, they come pouring it. They come in literally still with scissors, and they come at the counter, and they bring them in, and they refuse to use our order kiosk. But it is a very important part, because our original market group was 18 to 38 males, millennials, but more baby boomers. Now we're looking at the Gen Z and the Alpha, because that's the largest now population in the world, the largest growing population. So we're trying in a very subtle way to maintain our old, chili frosties, single guys, or single people, single hamburger people. But at the same time, we're obviously looking at these people. And so, now it's an old product, but SpongeBob just celebrated 25 years, so I'm going to push the hamburger out. So we came out with a Krabby Patty yesterday. It's gone through the roof, and supply chain have already told us that, I think we're going to run out of sauce. I don't know why they would do that, but we saw a bump in sales of almost 40%. And it's going right across the board to my kids are in their 30s, to my 18-year-old, and then we're seeing the young kids too. So we're just trying to broaden our horizons, but at the same time, obviously maintain the comfort for people to come in the restaurant.
Yeah. So, Anna, do you have any hotel, restaurant, resort side point of view?
Sure. We skew a little higher in age at the Venetian, probably between 40 and 60. But we also have a lot of people coming for conventions and a lot of tech conventions. So we're pretty lucky on the tech savvy side with that audience. But we're also trying to meet the guests where they are technologically. So even if we have to do a major shift with us, it really comes down to the communication plan behind it and giving a lot of runway so that they may even be able to get a couple visits in before the major change happens, and then we can, then they can have a person-to-person, especially if it's a casino customer, for instance, with their host, to walk them through that, and then we'll always have, I say always, but traditional. They can call and talk to someone on phone. They can walk up to the front desk, at least now, and so it's meeting them where they are, but also giving them plenty of runway and communication to get to the next step.
That's great. I think communication is such a key part in hospitality and any operations. I think communicating within the company, but also outside of the company with customers. And it makes me think, so I want to shift gears just a little bit with you, Anna. I know your company has a lot of sustainable practices and things like that. What does sustainable practices mean in the Venetian?
We have been really strong in sustainability since 2008 is when we started that journey. It was when we built the Palazzo, and it became the U.S. largest new construction build LEED certified building. And then shortly after, our Expo Center, Convention and Expo Center became Gold LEED certified. So under previous ownership and now continuing in our current ownership, we had a very strong sustainability presence. And we have watched that evolve, and we've watched it really on the convention side become a very important point. I mean, RFPs come through. These companies want to know our sustainability practices, how we'll align with theirs, and not only on the sustainability side, but they also want to know how they can give back to the community while they're in market and expect us to be able to provide those opportunities to them, which we do. But something that we're really proud of that we have been delving into for over 10 years now is food rescue. But over the last year, we developed a new program called the Food Rescue Alliance, where we work with one nonprofit locally to rescue every single meal that we can. So we produce about 3.5 million meals for convention attendees every year. And of course, you know, at the end of a mealtime, there's going to be a little bit of leftover. We forecast as sharp as we can, but there's going to be some leftover. And our goal is to keep it safe, transport it in temperature controlled boxes to an offsite location with the nonprofit, where it is repackaged and to family size portions and put out into the community immediately. So if you can imagine like an AWS, an Amazon Web Services, is finishing a mealtime with us, and whether it's a grab and go or it's prepared meals, that truck comes in and the hot boxes or the temperature control boxes go right onto the truck, straight out to the facility, and the magic begins. And the nonprofit that we work with is actually they have pop-up markets, they have Meals on Wheels for seniors, and they have about 10 no-cost community markets, because not only are we in a desert in Las Vegas, we are also in a food desert in Las Vegas. And most people don't know this stat, but 1 in 8 Nevadans struggle with food insecurity, and 1 of 5 of those are children. So it's something that we feel is a responsibility of ours to make sure that that food gets into the community, and 2, kind of set an example of what other resorts, other industries, other communities could be doing as well. So we this year we will save and get into the community about 250,000 meals. And in February, we actually were recognized by the White House in a press conference when they were talking about food insecurity and the White House Challenge and different organizations around the country that were making a difference. So there's a lot of sustainability practices that we take part in, but that's just a highlight right now. And when it comes to the convention client, they're really looking at it not only from a community aspect, but also from a waste diversion aspect. So we're able to put all that reporting together for the meeting planners so that they can report it back to their stakeholders, their shareholders, their attendees.
That's beautiful, and I'm glad that you are all doing this. And I want to explain kind of why I brought up sustainable practices, because right now that is a trend. Right now people are looking at what they're eating, looking at where they're going, looking at what companies are doing what for their community. It's something that they now have on their websites, or that they post on their social media of, oh, we just attended this conference, or this movement, or something like that. And I think that's a huge trend going on within any hotels, restaurants, events, things like that. Another trend that we all see within our classes, we learn about it, is personalization. I think personalization and customization at the same time, within apps, within chat boxes, within new technology. And Ricki, I want to point this to you for, are there any technological advances that we should be on the lookout for? Anything new and upcoming that you can mention for us?
I think more development. So especially you're going to see the apps and the delivery service get a lot more advanced than what they are. So just to go back to pre-COVID, so the day before we were at 1% in digital. That was it. People probably just very young people are looking at it and trying it. The minute COVID hit, we went from 1% to currently at 30%. And we're looking to build that to at least 50, 60%. And I've been having discussions with some of our people out here. Our dining rooms pre-COVID were about 25 to 30%. Our dining rooms are now 5%. So you'll see smaller buildings coming out, a lot more innovation to increase the efficiency of apps. So we not only have a drive-through window, we have digital pickup too. So you don't have to sit in the drive-through anymore or walk in and look for your food on a shelf. And to mention one of my competitors, Carver, actually does not have drive-through windows anymore. They have digital pickup. So you will pre-order on your app, and we're really pushing people to that. So you'll see a big increase in the use of technology of that, working with, again, AWS services, and obviously we work with Google AI, Google AI. We were picked by them to develop it, and like I said, you'll see our menu boards and everything. So you'll just see a lot more evolution moving forward in the technology part.
Yeah. And it's funny you bring that up, like always looking towards the future, but is there anything that hasn't worked in the past?
Well, our POS systems just don't seem to work. It's that bad technology. It's a big struggle, and it's usually because it goes down, and it goes down obviously in the middle of lunch. So we're still struggling on getting those. And of course, every time there's a fix, it's a very expensive fix, and in our line of business, that can be a little bit overwhelming. So the technology part is always, but I would say everything has worked as far as embracing and being game changers in that. So there's really nothing, I think it's just moving in the right direction.
Yeah, I also want to bring Cristian in on this, about any initiatives that you've seen, or maybe you've researched about that maybe were trying to be revolutionary and maybe they didn't kick off as much.
Yeah, that's an excellent point, right? So for the students who have been in my classes, you know that I always talk about technology adoption or innovation adoption. And to me, that is really, really critical, because when you want to plan to invest millions of dollars into technologies, and then it's not just the investment in technology. Every time you bring a piece of technology to an organization, right, then you have to figure out who's going to deal with it when it breaks. You have to create policies on how to use that, because it's going to create data. What are you going to do with the data, right? And so on the data itself, there's two perspectives, right? For the marketing folks, that data is amazing, right? Because now you can use it and make decisions for that, right? So it's golden, right? But for the IT folks, you need to protect that data, and that's plutonium, okay? You need to create the most strict rules, zero trust policy, and all this stuff to protect all that data, right? So it's very, very tempting to look at technology and say, hey, we're going to adopt that. It's going to work for us. But at the same time, we need to understand how adoption is going to work within the context of our organization, right? For our own people. Can they learn it? Can they integrate it within their workflows? Does this technology work with everything else that we have on the property? Because we know in hospitality, we don't always have the money to buy all of the system to create an entire tech stack from scratch, right? So we buy technologies that are supposed to work with what we have, and sometimes the interface, it doesn't work, right? So that creates some problems. So it's extremely important to look at technology from this aspect, but also I want to mention this, and I always talk about this in my classes. There is the issue of what I call premature adoption of technology. People adopting technologies for the sake of, well, it's cool to adopt it, right? It's going to do this for me, but it's not ready yet. And one perfect example is NFC. Dr. DeFranco, we wrote this paper, remember? We wrote it, and we published it on MSc in 2015. It accumulated almost 900 citations to date. It's one of the highest cited papers that we ever wrote at the University of Houston. And so, in the Hilton College. And so, in that paper, we were researching how people would, we were hoping to see how people adopt near-field communication payments, right? Like you pay with your phone, or you pay with your watch. And it was October 1st of 2015 when the merchants in the United States were given a deadline by a lot of these credit card companies, EMV cards, to switch to better POS systems to accommodate these chip payments. And I remember teaching in this very room here, October 2015, and then November, and then December, and nothing happened. And then the pandemic happened, and still nothing happened in that area. And then after the pandemic, now we see a lot of POS being adopted, and they have this feature, right? And we would go and present at conferences, and we were so enthusiastic about these technologies. And somebody at some point said, it looks like right now, NFC technology, near-field communication, is just a solution looking for a problem. And I think that's what it's important for us to understand. You want to adopt a technology, or you want to bring an innovation into an organization and within a team, is it really a solution to a problem, right, or not? Right? So that to me is extremely important, and I wanted to make that mention.
Yes, because we have to look at the past before we look at the future, right? But now looking at the future, are there any initiatives that you see are revolutionary, are taking off right now currently?
Oh, okay, thank you. Well, absolutely, there's innovation in absolutely everything. And so, since we talked very briefly in the beginning, I just mentioned Airbnb. Every single major innovation, every single company that starts to dominate creates gaps for somebody else, right? Absolutely, that's how it works. They create business models, they become the norm in the industry, but they leave opportunity and gaps for somebody else, right? So Airbnb created opportunity for people to basically use their inventory, right? To rent out space that they have. And then some people liked it, but a lot of people still preferred the digitalization, right, of this entire lodging process. But they still like some aspect from the hotels. They like the amenities, they like the standardization in the hotel, right? That gave opportunity for a company called Sonder to address this, right? And then there's so many, this is just one example, but there's so many examples of companies that disrupt, create an opportunity for themselves, but at some point they become vulnerable because the new norms that they create leave gaps. And so that's something that to look for.
That's great. And when we talk about these new initiatives, new technology, everything going on, I actually have a question for all of you. Is what would be like your first tip for maybe a small business that can't afford it or that has some lower budgets than some of the bigger, and how do they compare to and how do they compete with the big guys? Diana, start with you.
Sometimes I have envy of small boutique hotels because there's one, just the flexibility of being able to pivot quickly and get things off and test them and launch them and see them actually make an impact on their guest. But we have to do things a lot differently because it's 7,100 suites. And I mean, even going back to your question about things that didn't work, it's like the journey that we went through just to get the digital key up and functioning, and we're still not completely there because there's 7,100 suites, and getting that installed and working, and then switching, and then changing, and when you upset that guest and they've walked like a half a mile to get to their room, and then they're walking a half a mile back to get a key to go back to their room again. I mean, they got their steps in, but I mean, they're not happy at that point, and then you're really having to lean on a strong culture, service culture to bring that guest back. So, I mean, if I was looking at like a standalone boutique hotel, in comparison to the Venetian Resort, I would say, there's so much that you can, not necessarily on the technology side of innovation, but just the creativity side of customization and really bringing those unexpected joys and moments that, maybe a larger property can't do. It's funny when I come to Houston because I'll get in an Uber, I get in a Lyft, I start talking, and everybody's got a Vegas story. So they've got, yesterday the gentleman I had pulled out a stack this thick of his players cards for Vegas and then had a story about every single one of them, And then ours was on the top, and I was like, oh, that's the Venetian one. He's like, you never give me anything. And I was like, sorry, But I did love his story because I do feel like, Vegas is a good example of having like something for everyone. And he just stayed at all the big strip hotels, but then and he was probably, I guess he was about 35. And he goes downtown now because when he walks in and he goes to a particular table, they say, hey, Steve from Tomball, you're back, And that was what was, really important to him. That's what drove him to now be a guest at a downtown resort instead of a strip resort. And so when I think about the flexibility of a smaller resort to really lean into being able to customize those experiences and make it not only authentic to the brand, the hotel, but also the region, the experiences. There's so many small hotels that are doing that so well and really just creating experiences that bring their guest into that region and that culture and being who they are, being very authentic in their brand, that I think that more smaller businesses could do that also.
Absolutely. I want to talk. This is so cool that you bring up the Vegas example because what I'm about to say. So one of the things that revolutionized the way software or any technology product is being now developed and sold to hospitality companies that don't have a lot of profit margin, they don't have a lot of financial resources to operate, is the movement to the cloud. Okay, so, and I talk about this in my classes all the time. Cloud is such an abstract concept, like where does the data live? Where do the systems live today, right? They're all in the cloud, okay? They're somewhere else. And I remember back in the day speaking with people in the law enforcement, and they told me, back in the day, it used to be so easy. You go to a hotel and you know where the boundaries of the hotel ends, right? And you know how to secure people in the hotel. And now everything is in the cloud. The boundaries of the hotel or the organization don't match the physical boundaries, right? The digital boundaries expand much more. Okay, so what is supposed to stay in Vegas doesn't stay in Vegas. It moves to the cloud, right? So that creates problems, but also opportunities for people in the hospitality industry, because a lot of the systems that now, like back in the day, we used to buy as hospitality organizations and install on the property, they're not needed right now, right? You can have a system in the cloud with a vendor, and you can access that system using basically a terminal just like the terminals over there. All you need is good internet connection and a good interface, and that's it, right? The web client, and you access all these systems. And that changed the pricing models, because in a lot of situations, you don't need to buy the product, full product right from the beginning. You buy it as a subscription-based software or subscription-based service, right? So all these subscription, I think, make it easier for a lot of startups, startup companies, or a lot of small organizations to be able to afford new technologies, and like you say, to pivot when things are not working properly. I think it's much more freedom. And if you look at how they advertise these products, right? They say, don't worry about the technology in your organization. If you're a passionate chef or you run a casino, you don't need to worry about the technology part. We worry about the technology, we keep the system secure, we keep them up to date, but you do what you are really good at. Run the hotel, run the organization, be a chef, be a good event planner, and that's how we distribute the efforts, and everybody does what they're really good at.
That's very good advice. Be good at what you're good at.
Well, I think they both said it. There's a lot of affordable technology out there. I think like Toast and Square, designed for smaller vendors. Obviously we use NCR and Aloha, cloud-based technology, but there's a lot out there. Also, I think as far as advertising goes, there's kind of a free advertising, because the smaller individual chains are a lot more popular with the influencers. So you'll see, if we want to get an influence on Instagram, we'll probably have to pay them. So they're actually paid to come in. But these guys will go to these smaller chains, like I'll use an example. Berta Bodica's doing very well right now, and that completely was built through influencers coming out and doing it. So I think there's a lot of availability out there. And like I said, they need to focus on what they do in the restaurant, which they're doing very well. They're even giving us a run for the money too, and the technology is out there for them to grab whatever they can at a lower cost, or at least at a more affordable range. So there's plenty out there for them.
That's good for all of us to keep in mind, affordability. But so Cristian, I'm going to talk to you for another moment. So now we have covered what kind of has happened, what has been tried, what is happening right now. But the future is ahead of us. It's ahead of all of us. So you see the new generation every day in our classes, in the school. What skills do you think the students entering the hospitality industry should focus on to be competitive in this such tech-driven and innovation space?
Thank you from the bottom of my heart for this question. I've been waiting for this for a long time answer, because I see people smiling because they know what I'm about to say. Right? They know what I'm going to say. I remember when we first started this strategy and innovation class. We started it with the partnership with the Hilton innovation team from McLean, Virginia. And we want to talk to different vendors that they use for capturing innovative ideas and pushing the idea from just ideation to a finite product that they can deploy in a room. What's important to recognize is that a lot of people view innovation like this. It comes in a box, you open the box, you take it out of the box, push a button, you don't need to plug it in, it comes charged, okay? Push a button and it works with absolutely every single system that you have, right? That's what the expectation is. And a lot of the vendors of technology actually develop technologies like that. But what we learned by talking to a lot of these vendors is this. 100 years ago, whoever could write or read, all the doors would open to them. 20 years ago, it used to be coding. You wrote a little bit of code, right? You know how to use a bunch of systems. All the doors would open to them. And now it's going to be AI. You know AI, all the doors are going to be open to you. So that's the first thing I would say to my students. Don't be afraid to experiment and to try new technologies, especially AI. It is so easy to use, it's so well designed that everybody can learn very quickly and can become really, really good power users of this technology. Not just scratch the surface, but do amazing, impressive things. And I think that it's important because you will acquire things, you acquire skills that will be absolutely instrumental when you go and interview for a job. Or when you go to your boss and say, I want a raise because now I can do this. But most importantly, like Dr. Dufresne was saying, you can share this. You can educate others. And then that perpetuates, that knowledge perpetuates, right? So AI is one of the things. And if you can learn a little bit of Python, that would be absolutely amazing. It's so fun. But at the minimum, learn Excel. And within Excel, VLOOKUPs, macros, and pivot tables. Most importantly, I wanted to say this. Dream all the time. Take your time to reflect. Okay? I've seen people putting themselves into a barrier saying, oh, I don't want to pursue my idea because I don't know IT. I would like to design a website to sell my products. I make incredible jewelry, but I don't know how to build a website because I don't have, programming language knowledge. And I always say, just do it. You're young, you're energetic, and you're going to fail, but it's better to fail when you're young because you can recover and you can relearn. And you have a lot of people around you that can guide you. And if you want to design a website, you don't even need coding right now. You go to Wix or GoDaddy and you create a website, no coding tools, from scratch, and it will work. Professional website. So those are my piece of advice for the students going out there. Just be aware of all these technologies and just embrace them because you're going to be using them.
Great. All good advice we should all take. And I have a few questions just to end our wonderful panel off with to all of you. So we went over what innovation means to you and in different trends. But if cost was not a factor at all, I mean, they want that. What would you like to see as a one game changer in hospitality? Ricki. Cost is not a factor at all.
We just put a QR code up, and every Tuesday you get free food. I think we would go into the kitchen and look at robotics a lot more. We'd look at robotics, and that's what we're looking at right now. And I've seen them, but they're still very kind of slow, and they're not efficient, so as fast as what we can work. But I think definitely robotics, but still maintaining the quality of the product that we put out. And I'll give a little plug to our brand again, but our meat is always fresh. It's never been frozen. And our hamburgers are square because we don't cut corners. So it all came from Dave Thomas. So we do want to see that. So I think that's the biggest thing. But that is a very, very expensive investment to get robotics into the restaurant. So it's trying, and we're actually getting there. So our soda machines now, probably this time next year, will be working off the POS. So instead of them actually having to pick the size, the POS will pick the size for them, and the cup will go down, and McDonald's will be testing it too. But we'll have that. So we'll have a lot more integration of POS into the actual customer order, just again to increase the speed of the operation. But at the same time, you don't want to compromise quality because that's still a big thing for us.
That is something to look forward to. Cristian, do you have any?
Yeah, I have two of them, two things that I hope that they develop at some point. One is, and I think it's possible to do this even now, to have like a blockchain-based system where you can trace the origin of the ingredients that you eat in the restaurant. That'd be super cool, right? Because the blockchain, for those of you who don't know, it's a technology that allows you to store data very securely, and it can never be corrupted. Right? everything you write there, it stays there forever, that never leaves, goes nowhere, right? So you go to a restaurant, you order a dish, and you can trace all the ingredients to the place where they were harvested, right? How they were prepared, by whom, and stuff like that. That would be absolutely amazing, because you can imagine as a customer how much reassurance you have, but also from a marketing point of view, how you can market the origin in those ingredients. That's one thing. And finally, I want to say this, and we're going to do a research project with Dr. DeFranco on this. A lot of the user interfaces, I don't know who designs them and for whom, but they're just not working properly, especially for the old people. And I understand the creativity part of that. Everybody wants to be creative to reflect the brand, but it's just hard to use. And the first aspect of any innovation in order to be adopted is usability. Does it do the job better than other systems, right? Can I use an app in a restaurant to order a dish? And is it faster and more efficient than just speaking to a server? Right now, they're not all of them there. Right? I can barely see what they write. Contrast is bad, and I'm a little color deficient. So it's difficult to navigate through some of these interfaces, and I wish that they change that.
Is there any one big game changer that you would look forward to?
I have two also. Because I was really having fun thinking about this the other night. I was like, one, just electric high-speed train system all over the country. I'm just like, I mean, we are finally getting off the ground to build this bright line between LA and Vegas, and I mean, we've been talking about it for 25 years, and I still don't know if we'll see it. But when I think about, you know, just everything that there is to see in the States and how that could open up travel to so many people, and I would love to see that happen. So if anybody has personal call to Elon, you know, just put that in there for me. And then the other thing leans back into the food rescue, and the first thing that came into mind when I saw this question was that if there was some sort of national network that actually helped us to connect, whether it's resorts or grocery stores or restaurants or, you know, any type of organization that could take part in food rescue and get the food to the people that need it, we could, you know, totally end hunger in this country. But we need all that money that you're talking about. So those would be my two.
Just to jump in on what Cristian said, so going back to food sourcing is an important thing. So we can, and I think most of the larger chains can, we can go right back to the source. So if there's an issue with a product, you know, I think in 40 years we actually had somebody break a tooth on one of our patties, and we traced that bone literally right back to the packing plants. So they were liable on that. And that's a very important part.
So we all need to be doing those things. We all need to be innovative and starting new technology, but it doesn't have to only be technology. It could be a new program at work. It could be a new management style. It could be anything. And innovation is just ideas. It's creativity. So I, for one, am honored to hear all of y'all's thoughts. And with this everlasting topic, I mean, we could talk about innovation for hours. Sadly, we only have a few more minutes. So now is the big moment that you all get to not be interrogated by me, but you get to be interrogated by them. So first of all, thank you. But now we'll open it up to questions.
Sara, I have a question about biometrics. We're seeing them pop up Whole Foods, clear stations in the airports. Is it a means to an end or just a brokerage technology or something else?
Thank you, Greg. This is an outstanding question. I've been doing research on biometrics for the past 15 years. It's one of the areas that I really, really care about. Biometrics fulfill a very important role in the identification picture. For the most time, for the longest time, we have been using tokens for authentication or verification that are subject to vulnerability. And so a password is revocable, somebody can take it and so on. But your biometric is unique to yourself, right? That also poses some challenges, right? Because it's irrevocable, you can change it and you can only destroy it if you want. But it's a simple method of authentication that everybody has. And it's probably the most accurate system that we have right now to authenticate people, and it's also fast. The biggest challenge with biometrics is definitely the ability to recreate biometrics, the ability to trick systems into believing that the claimed identity is actually the right identity there, and definitely the privacy of the data that's resulting from that. And I always have questions like this when I talk about biometrics in class, and I always say a biometric system will harvest data from the consumers. Now we have multiple biometrics, so fingerprint plus the iris scan or facial image. And the system doesn't necessarily store the image itself, creates some mathematical relationships between some points on the face or some points between the fingerprints. They encrypt that, and that's what they store. It's very similar to how the passwords are now encrypted and stored in databases. So it's almost impossible to access, and even more impossible, if I can say that in English, but very, very difficult to recreate a biometric from a broken database. So it's a very secure means of authentication. It almost never produces an error, and it's becoming more accepted into the society. In the beginning, they weren't accepted so much in the society because it started with a fingerprint, and it started with Scotland Yard, and so they were used for crime, like in the criminal justice system and stuff. But thank you for your question. It's super cool. I wish they're more, and they're probably become more in hospitality. For example, Panera Bread has started to use the Amazon, I think it's Amazon One, the palm reader technology, and that's very, very cool. I like to use it a lot.
Real quick question. Thinking about disruptors, we got a lot of students in the room, and one of the things that we don't talk a whole lot about is their expectations after graduation. When the pandemic was a big disruptor in what people's expectations are when they go to work. And I know, Ricki, you do some of this in terms of how you treat your employees and all those types of things. What are some of the things that you're seeing that companies are doing in terms of innovation or accommodating the new expectations of the workforce?
Well, that's a good question, because everybody would like to work a little bit from home, but if you're going to work in a hotel, you actually have to go to the hotel. And we have a lot of people that try to work their way around that, or we do a hybrid, but I mean, there are just guest-facing positions that will continue to be guest-facing positions. So I think that as people enter into, this college and other fields that you're communicating with people, I mean, while there will be technology, I think you have to decide if the resort, for instance, is the right place for you, because typically most of your time will be spent in that building. So.
Well, first I'm going to put my technology. I didn't want to do it. I don't want to do it during the thing. So I think the same challenge. So we have people obviously in the restaurants, they have to be there. But then we got a lot of pushback because our small amount of office staff, a couple of them decided they didn't want to come into the office, and then we were getting pushback from our field people saying, well, it's not going to work that way. So unfortunately, we just had to find people who wanted to work. And to be honest with you, for your own personal psyche, I office from home for a long time, and we had less amount of stores. But I think just being in an office environment is good for your own psyche. I like to meet people. I don't need to see the same environment every day. Nothing's really changed as far as your challenges of going to work. I know obviously we accommodate now a little bit more with family values and so forth, and that's important for us too. We want to work on that, paid time leave and so forth. But I think at the end of the day, for your own personal health, I think you just need to be in an environment, meeting people and interacting humanly. And the Wendy's corporate office was closed for, was at about a 40% occupancy level, and then leadership just came in and said, no, everybody back to work. We just need, it's looking empty, it's not working, it's not good for the brand. So I think if we have there are accommodations you have to make, but generally, especially in our field, you have to be at work every day. So.
And I think there was a little bit of a shift because I'd interview people right after the pandemic that, definitely wanted to work from home, and is there any opportunity to work from home? And then all of a sudden I started to see the exact opposite. I don't want to work from home position. I want to come into the office, so I don't know if that was just, exhaustion of being at home and everything that went along with that, but we did see people that actually wanted to start coming into the office, so.
Okay, well, we are going to hold questions, but there is a meet and greet immediately outside. So please come up to them. I know they're all amazing individuals. All of Eric's clubs are amazing individuals. Please ask them questions. Thank you all for being here, first of all.
allow us to thank Sara for hosting. Cristian and Anna, we appreciate it, and thank you very much. So we're gonna shift right outside this room to the meet and greet.